Before you stands Agamar the Vile. He begins to speak.
Thunderwave! Make a Constitution saving throw. If he fails the save, he takes 2d8 thunder damage and is pushed 10 feet away from me. If he's successful, he takes half as much damage and isn't pushed.
While he's distracted, I attack. Nat 20. With my mods, that's a 26. My Vorpal sword does...
He makes a save and absorbs the damage somehow. Bill, you miss.
What?
Bullshit!
We should talk about 5 things the DMs do that players hate this week on the Dungeon Masters Dojo.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters and players alike. We hope to bring you tips and tricks to elevate your game and develop the art of dungeon mastery. I'm your host, Louis Aponte, and these are your dungeon masters, Scott Labby and Bill Robotile. Let's enter the dojo and see what they have in store for us today. I'm really calling bullshit.
Nat 20.
Vorpal sword.
Nat 20.
It falls off.
Double weapon damage.
There can only be one.
Dick move.
The ultimate dick move. And we're gonna talk about all sorts of dick moves this week. But first, a word from me. In celebration of 1 year of podcasting, we are holding a giveaway of epic proportions. Everything you need to get started running games. 4 dice trays, 12 complete sets of dice, 4 Crown Royal bags, the D&D Essentials Kit, the D&D Starter Kit, Horde of the Dragon Queen D&D Adventure, the Young Adventurers Collection, Nerdarchy's Out-of-the-Box Encounters, Brass and Steel Steampunk Tabletop RPG, OSR Greats, the Rad Hack, Into the Odd, and White Box Fantastic Medieval Adventure Game. But that's not all. The Curse of Strahd Revamped is included as well. This complete list goes to one lucky winner in the US. We realize we may have asked a lot of you initially, so here's the new and improved way to enter the epic giveaway. Simply go to thedungeonmastersdojo.com, our home on the web, and send us a message. You will automatically be entered into the giveaway for a chance to win. After we receive 500 messages, we will draw one lucky winner. We'll see you next time in the dojo.
Now, that's one epic giveaway.
That sure is. And,
Unlike that bullshit call.
And
I know I'm angry.
you're always angry.
You don't want to see him when he's angry.
You won't like me when I'm angry.
That's a secret power, Captain. He's always angry. That theme music is awesome, and I want that to travel with me, like to work and stuff. So when I show up first thing in the morning, I feel like I want to make an entrance like a pro wrestler. I mean, they get theme music at work, right?
There you go. Queued up on your phone.
Pyrotechnics.
Queued up on your phone. Bluetooth speaker hanging from your waist.
Yeah.
Walk into the with your hands, on your hips and
all
just
oiled up, ready to go.
Oh yeah.
Here to do paperwork. Yeah, we're talking about these five and there's more than just 5, but this is like the tip of the Dick DM iceberg. But we'll get you started with 5 things DMs do that players hate. And I've seen this. Well, we've all probably seen a lot of this. We've played at the tables where this goes on. Maybe we've made the mistakes ourselves.
Oh, I know I have.
Yeah, a lot of it.
I know you both have to.
Yep, and we know that players hate these things because Lou has told us.
That's why we do it.
Yes, the
just
Lou's good
aggravate
at
Lou.
such things.
I mean,
yes.
he aggravates us in so many different ways. We got to do
Countless.
something.
There's-
Something to
we
get
should,
back at him.
You know what? We should do an episode on 5 things players do, Lewis, that DMs hate.
I can only think of one.
Thunderwave!
I can think of many just out of your own playbook. As a matter of fact,
He doesn't have a playbook. He has flashcards.
Yeah, he's
Playbook is way too organized.
with stick figure
He
drawings on
just
it.
deals the deck. Whoop, yeah, this one will work.
I'll piss someone off with this.
And
All
that's
right.
my secret power.
It's not so secret. All right, so shall we get going?
Yeah, well, we might as well.
We might as
All
well.
right, point
Right.
number 1. The all-powerful NPC or DM character.
That will piss some players off. And I'm not too sure why DMs do that. Actually, I'm not too sure why veteran DMs do that, because I've seen that
Yep.
from some seasoned DMs. I've seen it from fledgling DMs, and the only way to do it before the Dungeon Master's Dojo was to sit down and give it a shot and make some mistakes.
Thank goodness we're here to save the pain and torment.
Thank goodness. A half a century later, here we are
Ta-da!
to improve your game. Better late than never.
And this is why I think I'm doing okay as a DM, because I learned from your mistakes.
Well,
Or your lessons, I'll say.
Well,
Yeah,
that's okay.
well, it's too late.
You'll make some
Oh, I
mistakes.
already have.
What was it? Very first night. Hey Lou, can I talk to you?
I was like, shit.
DM's like, he had to look like he was called to the principal's office. He really did. He's like, oh, geez. And his shoulders sunk. His head went down. He wouldn't make eye
I
contact.
don't want to do this no more.
yeah, I feel your pain. The all-powerful NPC, I think, pisses off players because players are supposed to be the heroes, right? The characters are the heroes of the story. And when the all-powerful NPC comes on scene, it takes that heroism out of the hands of the players and the characters and puts it on the NPC, and nobody likes that.
Oh, it's like handicapping to players.
It is. And I always saw Gandalf as kind of like the all-powerful NPC, because every all-powerful NPC that I ever met was a dick, kind of like Gandalf was in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. I like Gandalf as a character. He was kind of a dick. He was an intolerant old fart. Wow.
I was
That just
waiting for
occurred
it.
to me.
I was waiting for both their heads snapped around and and I was even going to say, just like me.
So I guess there's a Gandalf in every group, huh? But that's one of those things that'll kill player enjoyment a lot, is the NPC that could pretty much do anything, bail them out of trouble, handle every problem that comes.
I see it as the NPC stealing the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it becomes a narrative as opposed to a collaboration.
Yeah, and DM characters, well, that's a term that a lot of people use for a more fleshed out NPC that the DM runs, that adventures with the party. And
It's the same thing.
yeah, done poorly, it's disastrous.
Yes.
But you can do it well. I most frequently run a DM character because I hope that someday someone's going to say, hey, Scott, why don't I run a campaign where you can like play?
Let's take this moment and leer at Lou.
It never happens.
I said you can play on
But-
Wednesdays.
And here we go again.
With the Wednesday thing. Back off the to-do list.
Okay, you don't have to play on Wednesdays for now.
Thanks, I think. But the DM character can very easily become the all-powerful NPC and breed a lot of resentment amongst the characters, and then even worse amongst the players.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you really have a big problem.
Right.
Is when your players are that degree of disillusioned.
Now I'll play NPCs, and I'll play NPCs that seem to be more skilled than the players, I'll make a specialist out of my NPC. That'll kind of hover there or show up when he needs to because he's been following me. It's usually a rogue or rogue-ish, but it's kind of like the ace in the hole because these guys have painted themselves in the corner and they have no way of getting out. It's kind of like when Bilbo shows up in the Elven Hall with the keys to the jail cells. It's one of those type moments, and then you back them back out, reintroduce them, or introduce them to, for story plots. But I build my player characters sometimes that way. I don't necessarily min-max the stats, but I will put everything I can into particular skills. I love skills, and make them very, very skillful in one area. And then when it's something else out of his wheelhouse pops up, it's like, well, I've been doing everything else. Why don't you guys do this? And it makes it seem like, well, yeah, I can do it, but I'm not going to. It's about time you guys do something. And I'll throw that out. As a player character, I do that a lot. And they get the impression that, gee, this character can do absolutely anything, but no one's paying attention. He's just doing the same thing over and over.
There's a fine line you tread with your NPCs where you could very easily fall into that detour of, oh, now it's an all-powerful NPC. And that's a slippery slope where you definitely are going to run into problems with your players. Ultimately, with your players, there's going to be a lot of resentment there. And back in the old days, before we had the interwebs, right, it was a relatively small community.
True.
Everybody knew everybody else through some way, shape, or form, right? We bumped into each other at the Pony Soldier, the Dragon's Lair, or just an invite on a table. Back then, you could very easily develop a reputation as being kind of like a shit DM, which you didn't want.
Because, you go there, but he's basically just narrating the story for you.
Right.
And every once in a while, you get to do something, but that's about it.
Yeah, he wrote a book and he's reading it to you. It's, enough about me, let's talk about you. What do you think of me? That sort of thing. You didn't want to develop that reputation because word got around. Now, I think it's a lot easier to because we play on the interwebs and the whatnot, but there was a much smaller.
There was quite a few gaming shops, but they weren't that far apart. They usually had their big tape game nights on different nights, so you could actually go to 2 or 3 or 4 in the course of a week. Yeah. Every Monday I go to this one, every Tuesday I go to this one, every Thursday I go to this one, every Friday I go to that one. Saturday I game at my house, and so you see the same people over, and they're doing the same thing. Then you go to the conventions, and back in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of conventions in the area. You've seen a lot of the same people at the conventions, and you'd game there or you'd GM there. So you're still bumping into it, but that your reputation is going to follow you. When you get to the table, you'll bump into a person or two on the table, or just left the table when you got there, and like, you want to keep an eye on this game master. It's the scenarios are pre-written for you, but don't be surprised if your NPC is a little better than should be.
Yeah. Now having a powerful NPC is fine, especially if it's like the big bad evil guy, right? You want your BBEG to be one step ahead of your party. You want them to harry them. You want them to be almost untouchable for the first several levels, but. Mm-hmm. When it comes time to have the party go mano-a-mano with them, so to speak, then it needs to be tempered appropriately.
Correct.
Or else they spent an entire year or whatever's worth of campaign only to get their asses handed to them by someone that's a god-level NPC, and that's no fun.
That's no fun at
all. Or always has a way to slip away.
Yeah.
Just when you think, oh, no, but before you did that, he's going to use his reaction to, there's always that little loophole, hovering out there where he just slips through your fingers yet again. And if that's part of the plot, okay, because initially, he's going to kick your ass and walk away from you laughing. And then he'll send minions as you get a little stronger to do his work, and you weren't even going to see him. And then you might just almost catch him and have a quick encounter. And it's like, we got him this time, and he slips through. But that's part of the plot. But, when it happens over and over and over again, sometimes some of those slipping aways are a little on the sketchy side. That's when you know that your big bad's got this little Teflon armor thing going.
It's disheartening.
Yep. Very much so. So, I think like Bill said, after probably, to me, 4 or 5 times that he got away, I'm like, something's wrong here.
Yeah, and that's a nice segue into the next one, the big bad evil guys with that, for lack of a better term, plot armor. No matter what your players do, they're not going to get them. They could be the best plan in the world. and they're still not gonna catch up with him. No matter what, he's going to be resistant to this, that, and the other spell or this magic item or whatever have you.
Yeah. His amulet starts glowing, and oh, geez, here we go.
As a player, I'm gonna be like, why am I even here after 6 months and this still happening 6 months to a year?
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I even here if I can't be the hero?
Yeah,
right.
Let them have that moment. If they get the jump on your big bad evil guy and they come up with something clever as players do, let them have their moment. Because you can always reveal later on that was not the big bad evil guy. Of course, you're going to have to come up with something
new one, but
more evil.
Well, as a DM, that's a little bit of homework that you need.
Absolutely.
To do, and you should be prepared for that.
Just in case.
Yep.
Your players are always going to throw you a curveball.
Yeah.
Number one. And number two, if they do eliminate your big bad, like you said, who's to say that he is actually the big bad? Maybe he's the front person, the face person, and there's actually an organization behind that, or someone even bigger on another plane, or something like that. So yeah, you may have to. Hopefully, you've already had this figured out in your plot line, your scenario when you wrote it all up. But if you didn't, like I said, do your homework and whip something up and go from there.
One of the things I applaud Rob for is not doing this. That one time he DM'd that I played at his table, and he put his big bad evil guy out there with his army, and I wrote out with, I think it was Lou's character, and maybe Eric's character.
It was either Eric or DJ. One of the
DJ
two. Or Paul.
Or Paulie or Chet. I don't know, but we wrote out there, and he began to monologue. And you can tell that Rob put a lot of time and effort and thought into the monologue. And this was many years ago. Normally, like now, I would let the bad guy have his moment of monologuing, because I've had players not give me my monologuing moment.
Thunderwave!
And he starts monologuing, and I said, I pull out my sword and I attack him. So Rob's like, roll for initiative. So I rolled for initiative, and I won big time, which is rare.
Well, no, initiative at that time, you needed a low number.
Did you?
Yep.
I don't remember.
Went
So
1
maybe-
through 10.
Yeah, that's right. Shit.
So it was right in your wheelhouse.
They fucked my game up when they switched it to 5e. And I rolled a 20, nat 20, and I happen to have a Vorpal sword, and the rules specifically stated on nat 20, the head comes off.
Yep.
So he did. I lopped his head off. I even showed him in the book. And poor Rob looked dejected, and I said, there could be only one. And he got up and he walked out and went and had a cigarette. But he didn't do that dick thing where the bad guys got plot armor.
Right. But after that moment when we were out smoking, that's when Rob says, can we hex his dice? And we did.
Well, that is Rob, you bastard, if you're listening, lift the hex. It's been 30 years, for Christ's sake. I've paid my dues.
It'll get lifted when his big bad gets to finish his monologue.
That's what he said, too.
I'll have to call him. So you still got that monologue in a box somewhere?
Just paraphrase. It'll work. Yeah, when you have your big bads, or even some of your monsters, it doesn't even have to be your big bad. Some of your higher up monsters that you've run into before, oh, it's this guy again. Okay, well, or these type creatures, we'll beat them down. And all of a sudden, they have triple hit points and armor when they don't normally wear armor, and a magic item when they normally don't have magic items. It's like, okay, I can see there being like one orc that is the general, that the bigger one of everyone else. And I'm going to keep the one magic item instead of passing it on. I'm going to keep the good armor because, hey, I'm the boss. But when the entire group of 15 orcs are all outfitted like that,
there's a problem.
That's similar to, the big bad having your plot armor, and all of a sudden the monsters have the plot armor because the game master's pissed off because you keep wading through his minions.
I think that will kind of lead into our next step of shoddy world building.
And that would be it. That would be it. When you're not pairing up the monsters and the encounters with the level of your characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of commitment when you're building your own homebrew world. And I wouldn't recommend it to a brand new DM at all.
No.
I would recommend you pick a world, you read up on it, and you play in that world for a few years.
Well, yes, if you're playing in the world, like, because you guys created your own homebrew world, and we played in it quite often.
Mm-hmm.
So, like what I did is I brought my table into your world. I didn't create it, but I took what was from you guys. So for me to start my own world, it would have been shitty. To point blank, because there's a lot to world building. So, yeah, like Scott says, use a module or something that the world's already pre-built. Or if you played in a world, I think we played in this world for 10 years.
12
years?
Yeah.
So I already had an understanding. So I'm not world building. The world was already built.
And we gave you an alpha version or beta version of the book. So,
exactly.
yeah.
So, but that's the whole point. I already knew the world. So if you don't know the world or how to create a world, play in a world for a little while. Learn the nuances of the governance, the monsters, everything that needs to be taken into account. You just can't create a world, because if you do, there's going to be a lot of mistakes and a lot of upset players.
Well, there's going to be holes, and the parts that you build may be absolutely fabulous, but there's going to be holes, and your character is going to see those, and they're going to walk right through them.
Yep, and not only that, there's going to be a lot of mistakes made, because you're going to want to backtrack, and you really can't backtrack once something's already done.
Yeah, it's hard to retcon.
Yeah, it's not a Marvel superhero, and you
Exactly.
can't play Retro Man. So
yeah, I don't recommend retconning. So
no, retconning ruins immersion. It destroys the kind of the nostalgia of remembering the games that had already gone by.
right.
it destroys the flow.
Yeah, and the fortunate thing is when you are ready to world build, when you sit down, maybe you've played in Faerun or Eberron or Arthas or Athos for a couple years, and you've run games in it and you've read some books. And I've said this before, you can always go back to prior editions that have a ton more information on a ton more worlds than 5th edition has. The lore is still good, and you can use those old books. But when you sit down after a couple years of playing in commercial worlds and you decide, I'm going to build my own campaign setting, give it another year, and then listen to our episodes on world building.
Yeah, use that year, listen to the episodes, and build slowly and build carefully. Don't try to just build it and go, all right, next week I'm going to have my own world. It's not happening in a week.
It's a big job for one person to do, and that's why sometimes you run the risk of having a shoddy campaign setting.
It's even a risk for sometimes just 2 GMs to try to do that. It takes pretty much a whole table to assist and help.
Well, absolutely. Bill and I worked on the campaign setting weekly for a long time, probably about 10 years. And then when we went on our getaway, that was more world building in the campaign that we ran at our week long.
Well, that was basically our play testing.
Yeah, and the players at the table, we did our part, but the players at the table filled in all of the fine points. Jared's character, Ulred, well, Jared filled in a lot of the blanks for that character's race. And Eric filled in a lot of the blanks for, actually, he built the race based on his gameplay. So there's a lot. The players have to be invested in it.
I mean, well, they're invested in when we ask them, hey, where do you want to play? And they go, let's play your world.
Yeah.
If we say, well, we're going to go play Eberron. Why?
No, let's stay in your world.
And if you're a new DM and you have a table of new players, then world building certainly isn't a good idea, because your players have yet to really learn the game, right? So
it's tough to fill in the nuances when they're having a difficult time with the broad strokes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So stay away from building your own world for a while. Anyway.
I mean, the prestige of saying I built my own world is pretty nice. Being able to bring people into your vision is going to be absolutely awesome, but you want to make sure you do it right. And it takes time. and you need to be patient and go over little by little. I think we literally started with the maps, with the continents, and we literally built the globe. And then from there, it's like, all right, what do you have an idea for? I don't think we put pencil to paper, aside from notes to keep our old brains on track, for months and months before we actually started.
I think it was a year.
Yeah.
That we decided we were going to start filling in some of those things. And it was notes we're fortunate with our players. They're all experienced, extremely creative to a fault at times. And that was a big help, because no matter how good you are at building a world, you need your players to breathe life into it. Otherwise,
you're only one person. You're only one vision, one brain, and then you throw your table at it, and they start bouncing off of one another and start feeding off of one another and feeding off of you and your ideas. And that's where that enrichment comes from, is the multiple points of view that start focusing and in on one thing. And, hey, what if you did this instead? Oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, well, what about you? You can do this instead. Oh, I didn't think of that could stack. And so they start helping one another as well as themselves. And meanwhile, you're sitting there jotting notes down as fast as you can.
Well, look at it this way. Wizards of the Coast, do you think it's only one or two people that are writing the book on Faerun? No, it's a whole collective of people.
Yeah, it's a team.
And plus, then they put it out to be tested to find out what works and what doesn't, which is the same thing your DM is doing when he presents something to you. It's going to be either it works or doesn't. He either adds or takes away. If you're not doing that, your world is going to fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it may not necessarily fail.
It won't be fun.
But it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be attractive to your players. So keep working on it. And when you think you have it done, read it again. You don't. Make some fine touches, throw it at somebody else, and then from there, throw it at your table. Now you got your world in the process of being worked on. Let's go on to the next point. Railroading.
Choo-choo.
I think they hate that as much, perhaps even more so than the all-powerful NPC.
I think more so, because the all-powerful NPC, at least you get to put some input in once in a while, but railroading is railroading.
Yeah, there's no leeway of which way you can go.
Yeah, I'm going down the road. Okay, there's a fork in the road. This one leads into the mountains. This one heads down to the town. All right, let's go up in the mountains. You have no provisions. You're all hurt. You haven't slept in a bed in a while. Yeah, but let's go up in the mountains. But the town's right there. Yeah, but we don't want to go to town. We're going to go to the mountains. Okay, you come around the corner, there's a landslide.
Yeah.
The path is gone. There's a scree field. You can't possibly get across it. It's more than difficult terrain. You're going to get hurt.
I'd be like, you dick. You did that on purpose.
Yep.
Railroading is a good tool to some extent.
It's an art if you're going to use it, because you have to give leeway.
Right. It can't be the foundation of your campaign. It could take place once in a while for a very small amount of time, a blip, if you will, on the screen. But your players will figure out real quick that they're being railroaded.
Yep.
And they'll make mention of it. And if your players are anything like ours, it's not like, hey, can I pull you aside and talk about this? Someone's yelling bullshit at the table.
Bullshit.
And another guy is making a snide remark. So you will know when they're onto your railroading and they're unappreciative of it.
Yeah, your railroading should be more nudge.
I think
a strong suggestion, but nothing more than that.
I think players hate it because they're not giving any latitude to do anything.
Right, there's no player agency.
It's very linear, and nobody, unless you're playing a video game, nobody likes to play a linear game.
And now you know why I don't use published modules.
It's a pitfall, I think, of a brand new DM, and it's also a bad habit.
Yes,
of a veteran DM. It's like meeting an adult that still picks their nose. It's a bad habit. Someone hasn't slapped their hand. Huh?
You just picked your nose.
It was a bat in the cave. Got to clean the ballroom once in a while.
All right, nobody visits.
So you want to stay away from those bad habits. And I think we know we're self-aware enough, most of us, to know that, well, I'm railroading and it's a bad habit I've picked up, but sometimes when you kind of work around developing a skill, that's what you're left with.
Yep.
It's always improv is key. And sometimes I think DMs will railroad because their improv skills aren't great.
Or they don't know how to improv.
Well, I think a lot of it, too, is what your new game masters. A lot of them are writing these things out in chronological order, and it has to happen in that order.
That's it.
And they don't realize that their encounters should be, almost all of them, transplantable.
Yeah.
You need to be able to shuffle them around. You know, okay, if the magic item is in the Dale town and they're going to Arborus, put the magic item in Arborus. Switch the towns. If everything's got to happen in town, just switch the names.
Yeah.
That's it. All you got to do, switch the names
That's
of the
a
town.
perfect point.
Boom, done. Now they're hitting the NPCs that you need to hit. They're going to the place you need to hit, but just switch the names.
Keep it fluid.
And that way, but you need to make your monsters, you need to make your magic items, you need to make your encounters, your towns, your cities, all transplantable, where you can just pick them up like Lego blocks. Nope, we got to change the yellow block for the red block.
Yeah, move them. There's nothing wrong with that.
But there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're writing your scenario out and it's like, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, crap, they've gone from 3 to 6. Crap. And that's where I think the game masters, especially your newer ones, feel like they're going to be railroaded. Or one of your veteran players, like you said, it simply has a bad habit. No, I wrote this beautiful piece that, is going to follow this excellent story flow, and they have to go here first because there's all these things that's there, and I can't move it. Why can't you?
Yeah, you're not a novelist.
Yes.
You're a dungeon master. There's big difference.
Yep.
Everybody likes to think of their campaigns as cinematic. You want big blockbuster Avengers scenes, and sometimes one of your knights is just getting
Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, or torn to bits by a rabbit.
Yeah. Yep.
You want the Fellowship of the Ring, and you've got Monty Python's Holy Grail. It's just work with it. That's why I think every GM ever should run Keep on the Borderlands as their first campaign or adventure or whatever have you. Module. Yes. Keep on the Borderlands was the first retail module that you got with a basic set. I don't think it was Moldvay Cook. I think it was the one that came after. Moldvay Cook had, was it the one that Dave ran for us that was a really good, the Tower of Xenopus or something like that?
Yes,
I think
Tower
that
of
was
Xenopus, yep.
But Keep on the Borderlands, which became In Search of the Unknown later on when they put all the B modules together, was great because everything was numbered. It was all over the map, and where your players went, they went.
Yep.
And it's good. What I think that did was that taught me very early on to think on the fly, because you always think they're going to go right, but they go left. That's just the way it is.
Or our party that just gets out the swords and just hacks their way through the middle.
Yep. Yeah, here is what I think the party needs to do to survive this situation. Instead, what they do is they end up going through the sewers, which are extremely dangerous, hacking their way through, surviving. How they've done it, I don't know, but they're on the brink of death. They come up on the other side of the sewer, and then there's mobs of bad guys, and then someone makes an exploding football. which was not the solution that I had in my mind for this, because who makes an exploding football?
Lou.
And hands it to the big meathead of the party and says, throw it. And creativity, right? Mm-hmm. That's...
Well, a huge dose of creativity is going to be diametrically opposed to your railroading.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. You are not going to be able to railroad a really imaginative group. It doesn't even have to be a well-seasoned group, just a really imaginative group that has a pretty good, understanding of the rules and is behind their character.
Right, and that when our table is faced with the rock slide, your railroading rock slide, someone's turning into a mouse, so they could go into someone's pocket who's going to cast spider climb and climb up the ravine walls to go over.
Yeah. Meanwhile, dragging, the 3 little short people that are all floating on one tensor's disc.
Yep.
And just tag right along. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Okay, we cleared that. That was no problem.
So don't try to railroad an experienced group of adventurers, because they'll pick up on the fact that you're fucking with them, and they'll fuck with you like. And
now we're definitely going this way.
Oh, so challenge accepted, Mr. Dungeon Master.
The gauntlet has been thrown down, and I shall accept.
Scott has heard that word many a night.
It is a battle of wits, I see. But as an experienced DM, I love that stuff. You know what? Build an exploding football.
Yep.
What could possibly go wrong? Well, we'll find out.
Well, okay, you got an exploding football. It's probably going to work. You gave it to the meathead to throw it. Roll a d20. Because a 1 or a 2 could be bad. And you may want to rethink that whole idea about making exploding footballs in the future if you survive.
It seems the only time that my dice rolls are good is when Lewis does something outlandish. And it's in his favor. I think I rolled, because he gave it to the NPC, I think I rolled a 20.
Yep.
And it was like, drilled it right into the crowd. But it's got to have something to do with the hex.
And Scott with the assist.
Yeah.
And it's good.
You know what sucks?
Do tell.
A DM who is not prepared. Now, there was a year, the year that shall not be named.
Yes.
Where there was, I would say, 5 minutes of preparation, and the entire campaign, which was supposed to run close to 50 hours of gameplay in a week, was sitting comfortably on a piece of paper pulled out of a wire, one of those spiral notebooks.
Oh, I didn't even get that much.
And I don't even think it was written in pen. It was written,
index cards.
You got some index cards. Not enough to study for a test with. There was like 3 or 4.
Instead of Cliff Notes, it was Cliff Scraps?
Yeah, it was. I don't even know if all of them had stuff written on them.
No, they didn't.
So that, and
let's give it a little context here first, because people are like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
In our first, I think, 7 years, Bill and Scott ran for like the first 3, and then we started alternating DMs.
Yes.
It was Eric, I know, was 1 year, then I was behind him.
Did a phenomenal job.
And then somebody else was behind me. So,
yes. Lou, you did a good job too.
Thank you. But the person behind me was the one who didn't prepare anything, and he was, since Eric and I were kind of his assistant to run the second table, because we ran 2 tables, we had to, I don't know, we kind of were freaking out a little bit, like, hey, there's nothing to, well, this is what you guys got to do. Oh, what do you mean this is what I got to do? So there is no context with all that context.
You barely got bullet points.
Yeah. So I just wanted people to understand that we were rotating GMs, and I know when Eric planned his year, he did almost a whole year's worth of work. I did about 6 to 9 months worth of work, because you were my assistant at the time.
Yep.
And I gave you a binder full, and I had a binder upstairs. But we didn't even get that.
I hope you appreciate everything Eric gave you, because I had Eric the year before, and he gave me 1 piece of paper with 8 bullet points for a week's of gaming.
But you can work off of bullet points.
I can.
Eric and I can't.
I made it. I made it. That's when the second year I told him, if you give anything remotely close to that, I not only will kick you off the table, I will literally kick your ass.
Right. But going back to the lack of prep, it really destroyed not only, I think, our game, it destroyed, because we were assisting, it destroyed me and Eric a little bit mentally, because we were like, what the hell do we do? We actually came and had to talk to you two to say, the game is not happening, or it's happening, but not in a fun way. It was out for retribution. It was, this one turned into a GM versus the players.
Specific players.
Because he was not prepared. He just had a thought in his mind saying, this is what I want to do. but there was no outline, there was no planning, there was no NPCs, there was nothing except just try to take.
Yep. And we don't talk. I think we talked about the adversarial GM before. And one of the things, if you're not prepared as a GM, or you're not willing to be prepared, and shit happens, right? I mean, most of us have jobs, schools, other responsibilities to some extent, which can interfere with our ability to engage in the hobby, prepare, whatever have you.
Correct.
And that's understandable. And if you have like a really busy schedule, it's probably not a good idea that you offer to run a game. You know, be honest with the people at the table. Man, I'd like to, but right now I'm not in a place where I can, and that would be unfair to you as the current DM and the rest of you as players.
I still think that's a poor excuse, because as a DM myself, I would, I don't have anything prepared. Let me go get this module and work with that module.
Yes.
So there is those out. So yes, guys, it's a little different, but at least we're still playing the game.
And with our group, you had people, Scott and myself especially, were out there saying, if any time you were stuck or something, like you need to get together one night to help flesh things out, let us know and we'll assist to make sure you're ready.
Because here's the difference. Both Scott and Bill can both work off just bullet points. I could not. I actually need something substantial, a book or something, so I can go through and know what I got to deal with. Because yes, while I do DM, I haven't DM'd as long or as extensive as both of you guys. So there's that difference. So you're right. For the new DM, if you're going to try something, make sure you at least have a module, at least read the first 3 or 4 pages to get you started. Because as your players are going, you can slowly stay ahead of them until you have time to read.
Yep. As the bare minimum.
Yes. Yep.
As the bare minimum.
And that's a great option. I used to shit on the retail modules. For me, no sir, I'm creative, but and I always thought it was a lazy DM's way out. But in a situation where, especially now, the older I get and the more responsibilities I have, because the weird thing about getting older is people assume you're going to be responsible and mature. I don't like that.
And you wonder why I always look upset.
Yeah, I still want to be 14, and with not a care in the world. But if you don't have that time, like Lou said, exactly, pick up a retail module. It's a lot different than back in the old days when it was like, shit, I got to run down to the Dragon's Lair. I got to see if they have this. Now, Amazon, right? It's there the next day, unless you're Bill,
you could go to
who doesn't have Amazon Prime, the only person on the planet.
But you could go to DM's Guild, and they have some free ones.
I mean, it's right at your fingertips. Yeah. And there's some good free stuff out there from some pretty talented writers in the community. So, give them some props. If it's free, throw them a couple bucks, too.
And that's all they ask, some of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But if you're not going to be able to prep, don't run a game, because everybody's time is valuable. Right, we get together on Monday night, and to get a dozen people all to show up at the same time on the same night is
logistic nightmare.
Yeah, it's a miraculous feat. So these guys are coming from work. Andrew still had his scrubs on.
Yeah,
with his trademark bucket of coffee and a foot-long Subway under one arm.
Usually 2.
Yeah. And so he's coming right from work in most cases, and other guys are coming from work or
we got
school
some coming,
or whatever.
We got some coming from over the state line.
Yeah,
a couple of them. Then we got others coming from half a dozen towns away and driving 45 minutes to get here.
Yeah, time is precious when you get older, especially when you're our age, man. Because we don't know. It's like shit. I may not wake up tomorrow. I'm at that age now where it's like, I could wake up dead.
Why is he looking at me when he says that? You see, he just swiveled right around at me.
I was kind of looking there too. So
Oh, jeez.
We just wanted to make sure.
Hey, I am.
Like,
I'm a little.
we had
I'm
chest rise.
scored a little high in the goal pool, but I'm not on the top.
Oh shit, he's still breathing. He still looks disgusted. Bill's alive.
as long as Scott doesn't say you're going to be in the hospital next, you're fine.
Oh yeah, the curse. Yes. He's attempting to siphon the bad mojo from his dice and pass it on to somebody else.
My family has the gift, and sometimes if I speak out loud,
You get fucked up.
it's
what happens.
bad.
I know. I've been there. I was in the hospital. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
What are you doing here? Oh, I'm just having a heart attack.
Be nicer to me. Preparation is key because people's time is valuable, and it's not just you not being prepared. People are showing up expecting to play a game. It's a big role you have as a DM.
You're not the only one investing the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not the only one investing the time.
You may have to invest a little bit extra that everybody else is, but that's part of what you sign up for, unless you're stuck being the forever DM.
I'm not saying it. You could join us on Wednesdays, but I'm not saying it.
I can't win with him.
Why do you try?
You know what? Even when you're drowning, you're still kicking, trying to keep your head above water.
You're treading Lou.
Yeah. Don't offer to do it if you don't have the time to prepare. And if you don't have the time to prepare and you do offer to do it, then you really need to come up with something.
You need to stay with that commitment.
Yeah.
Well, it's a responsibility.
Yes.
You've taken on a responsibility, just like everything else you do in your life. People are counting on you. People expect you to produce, and you need to. And if you can't, then don't take on the responsibility. It really boils down to that.
Again, it's one thing if there's, a family emergency or you're tied up at work
life
or something
happens.
like that.
Life happens, and people understand. And there's been a few times where hey guys, something came up. I notified everyone as quickly as I could. There's no game this Monday, because of this, and it's happened. But it's not like it's a steady thing. And then someone will call and say, "Hey, I can't make it. Something can't." No problem. No. We'll park your character in a yellow zone where it's safe, and you're all good.
Yeah, and you can always just commit and go. Listen, I understand that you've been the DM for an eternity. I'll give you a break. I'll run for a month. Four games. I'll run it. Give you a break. That's a small commitment, as opposed to Lou's over there shaking his head.
Wednesdays.
Bloop.
Yeah.
He's fishing for game masters.
Let me carry my cross through the streets, Lewis. But you don't have to commit to a long campaign of a year. You can commit to 4 sessions, or I'll commit to this scenario, and when it's over, it's over. So it's a smaller commitment. If you happen to have a life that seems like it's ramping up to be a little busier than normal, and things like Bill said, life happens, but be prepared.
Have your ducks in a row. So we went over a whole bunch of points about how your game master could really kind of screw things over and build a little bit of animosity amongst your players. Remember, it is a responsibility, but they are taking their time and investing in you to put this game together. Show them some consideration, and when they show up to the table, game masters, show your players consideration, and try not to manhandle your players.
And that's 5 things DMs do that players hate. We'll see you next time in the dojo. That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.